So many of us grow up placing our mothers on pedestals or dragging them into pits. We either see them as saints who could do no wrong or as villains who ruined our lives. But here's the truth, neither version is complete. Your mother is not just mom. She is a human being, a woman who existed long before you were born, carrying her own childhood, her own heartbreaks, her own disappointments. She had dreams that may have been put on hold, fears she never spoke of, and traumas she may not have even acknowledged. When we look at our mother only through the lens of what she was or wasn't to us, we reduce her to a symbol. We make her represent perfection or pain. But people are never that simple. And when we try to keep her in those boxes, we block our own healing. Think about it. If you expect your mother to have been flawless, you will forever be disappointed. If you only see her as the source of your hurt, you'll forever feel like her victim. Both keep you trapped. But when you allow her to be human, imperfect, flawed, sometimes failing, sometimes loving, you step into truth. You see that she wasn't born knowing how to nurture, how to love without limits, or how to heal the wounds she carried from her own mother. She may have tried her best. She may not have tried at all. But either way, she was human. Acknowledging her humanity doesn't erase the pain. What it does is loosen its grip. It gives you perspective. Her actions weren't always about you. They were often about her own story, her own limitations. And that shift from seeing her as a symbol to seeing her as a human can be the beginning of real healing. Because when you stop demanding your mother to be the perfect figure in your life, you create space for yourself to become whole. Every family has stories. Some are told around the dinner table, passed down like treasures, stories of love, sacrifice, resiliencies. But there are also the stories that never get told, the silences, the secrets, the heavy pauses that fill the air but never reach our ears in words. And for many of us, those unspoken stories live inside our mothers. Maybe she never told you about the loneliness she felt as a child. Maybe she never explained why she shut down emotionally, why she was quick to anger, or why she kept so much locked inside. Maybe she never talked about the heartbreak that shaped her, the loss she never healed from, the shame she carried like a second skin. When those stories remain unspoken, we often mistake them for rejection. A quiet mother might feel like an unloving mother. An angry mother might seem cruel rather than wounded. A distant mother might come across as disinterested when really she was paralyzed by her own pain. The problem is children naturally believe everything is about them. If your mother was sad, you might have thought it was your fault. If she was angry, you might have believed you weren't good enough. If she was absent, you may have decided you weren't worth staying for. Those interpretations become part of your story, shaping your self-worth, your relationships, even your sense of identity. But when you start to uncover, or at least acknowledge, your mother's unspoken stories, the pieces begin to fit differently. You start to see her pain not as a reflection of your value, but as part of her history. That doesn't erase the impact it had on you, but it changes the meaning. Understanding the silence doesn't mean excusing it. It means freeing yourself from the lie that you were ever the cause of it. It allows you to say, her struggles were real. They shaped me, but they were never about me. And that shift, that's where healing begins. Because once you stop carrying her unspoken pain as your own, you finally create room to write your own story, one that isn't. We're taught to see love as pure, unconditional, and safe. So when pain enters the picture, when a mother's words cut deep, when her absence leaves a scar, when her silence feels like rejection, it feels confusing. How can someone who loves me also wound me? Many of us spend years trying to choose one side of the story. Some of us cling to the love, denying the hurt, telling ourselves, she did her best, so I shouldn't feel this way. Others cling to the hurt, dismissing the love, deciding, if she hurt me, then she must have never really cared. But the truth lives in the tension between both. Your mother could have loved you with every ounce of what she had and still hurt you because what she had wasn't enough. She could have wanted to protect you and still pass down her own fears, shame, or anger. She could have held you in one moment and criticized you in the next. Love and hurt are not opposites. Sometimes they live side by side. And here's why that matters for your healing. If you only see the love, you'll minimize your pain and never truly process it. If you only see the hurt, you'll bury the truth that love existed at all, and you'll stay stuck in resentment. But when you allow both truths to stand together, that you were loved and that you were wounded, you finally step into wholeness. This isn't about letting your mother off the hook. It's about telling the full story, a story where love doesn't erase hurt and hurt doesn't erase love, a story that acknowledges complexity instead of forcing everything into black or white. When you accept that love and hurt can coexist, you stop looking for perfection in your past and you start creating compassion in your present. You begin to understand that being loved imperfectly doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means you were human, raised by another human, both of you navigating the messiness of connection. And in that messy truth, there's freedom. As children, we believe the world revolves around us. If something goes wrong, if someone we love is upset, we think we must be the cause. That's the way a child's mind makes sense of the world. It personalizes everything. So when a mother is distant, angry, sad, or unavailable, most children quietly decide, it must be me. I must not be enough. I must have done something wrong. And without even realizing it, we grow up carrying that invisible weight, the belief that we are responsible for our mother's pain. But here is the truth you need to hear. Her pain is not your fault. If your mother was overwhelmed by anxiety, that was hers to carry, not yours. If she was haunted by her own childhood, those ghosts belonged to her story, not yours. If she lashed out in anger, it wasn't because you deserved it. If she struggled to love you in the way you needed, it wasn't because you were unlovable. Your mother came into your life already carrying her own scars, her own unfinished healing. And while those wounds may have spilled over onto you, you were never the cause of them. You were simply there when the storm raged. When we don't separate ourselves from our mother's pain, we start living as though we are broken. We become adults who over-apologize, who feel guilty for existing, who constantly try to prove our worth. We replay the message that was never spoken but always felt. You are responsible for how others feel. But the moment you understand that her pain was never yours to carry, you begin to set yourself free. You stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. You stop blaming yourself for wounds you didn't create. You stop holding yourself hostage to the impossible task of fixing someone else's brokenness. Healing begins when you draw a line between her story and yours. Yes, her pain shaped you. Yes, it left marks. But it was never your fault, and it will never define your worth. You are not your mother's unfinished healing. You are your own beginning. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood parts of healing, especially when it comes to our mothers. Many of us resist it because we think forgiving means saying, it didn't matter, it wasn't that bad, I'm fine now. Others believe forgiveness means we must welcome the person back into our lives or pretend the pain never happened. But forgiveness is none of those things. Forgiveness is not erasure. It doesn't rewrite the past, and it doesn't excuse the harm. What your mother did or didn't do still mattered. The wounds you carry are real. Forgiveness doesn't say, it's okay. Forgiveness says, I won't let this hold me hostage anymore. When you forgive, you're not letting her off the hook. You're unhooking yourself from the weight of resentment. Because carrying resentment is heavy. It's like drinking poison every day and expecting someone else to feel the pain. It lives in your body, in your thoughts, in the way you see yourself and others. And the longer you hold it, the more it owns you. Forgiveness is freedom, not for her, but for you. It's the act of saying, this happened, it hurt, and I will not let it chain me to bitterness forever. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it happens quietly in your own heart without ever saying the words aloud. Sometimes it's about loosening the grip, not rebuilding the bond. You may never hear the apology you deserve. You may never get the explanation you long for, but you can still choose to release yourself from carrying the pain forward. That release, that letting go, is not weakness, it's strength. It's choosing your peace over your prison. And here's the truth. Forgiveness is a process, not a single decision. Some days it feels easy. Other days the anger rises again. That's okay. Forgiveness is not a finish line. It's a practice of returning over and over to the decision, I choose. To be free, because forgiveness was never about excusing her. It was always about reclaiming you. One of the deepest, most hidden wounds many people carry is the grief of not having the mother they needed. And because grief is usually associated with death, we often don't give ourselves permission to grieve someone who is still alive, or even someone who was physically present in our childhood but emotionally absent. But here's the truth. You can mourn the mother you long for, even if you still have a mother today. You can grieve the hugs that never came, the words you needed but never heard, the protection you should have had but didn't. You can grieve the encouragement that never showed up, the safety you craved, the unconditional acceptance that never arrived. That grief is valid, it is real, and ignoring it will only keep the wound open. Many of us try to bypass this grief by saying things like, she did her best, or other people had it worse, or I turned out fine. But grief doesn't disappear just because we rationalize it. The unmet needs remain, quietly shaping our relationships, our sense of self-worth, and the way we love and trust others. Allowing yourself to grieve the mother you didn't have is not betrayal, it's honesty. It's finally saying, I needed more, I deserved more, and I didn't get it. That acknowledgement doesn't make you ungrateful for what she did give. It simply makes you human. And here's the paradox. Grief is not the enemy of love. In fact, grieving what you didn't receive can make you more capable of appreciating what you did. It can make space for both truths, that she gave something and that she also fell short. When you give yourself permission to grieve, you stop waiting for her to change the past. You release the fantasy that one day she'll show up as the mother you always needed. And in that release, you step into freedom. Because grieving the mother you didn't have is not about rejecting her. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about giving that hurting child inside you the validation she never got. It's about saying that what I needed mattered, and even though I didn't receive it from her, I can begin to give it to myself. That kind of grief doesn't weaken you, it heals you. One of the hardest but most powerful truths to accept is this: you cannot change your childhood. You cannot rewrite what happened, what was missing, or what was broken in your relationship with your mother, but you can rewrite the story you tell yourself about it. And that changes everything. Many of us live inside the old scripts we absorbed as children. I'm not enough. I have to earn love. If I make mistakes, I'll be abandoned. I'm responsible for other people's happiness. These silent beliefs become the framework of our lives. They shape how we choose partners, how we raise our own children, how we treat ourselves in moments of failure. Instead of, my mother didn't protect me, so I must not be worth protecting, you can rewrite it as, my mother couldn't give me protection, and that's why I've learned to fiercely protect myself and others. Instead of, she didn't love me enough, so I must not be lovable, you can say, her love was limited by her wounds, but that doesn't define my capacity to give and receive love. Do you see the shift? The story changes from being about what was done to you into one about the strength, wisdom, and compassion you've built because of what you endured. Rewriting your story is not denial, it's empowerment. It's taking the pen out of the past's hands and writing a future where you are not defined by pain, but by resilience. It's saying, this is what happened, and this is who I choose to become because of it. Your mother's story may have shaped you, but it doesn't now in you are not bound to repeat her wounds, her fears, or her silence. You get to choose a new legacy, one that is rooted in awareness, compassion, and freedom. Rewriting your story doesn't erase the past, but it transforms the meaning of it, and in doing so, it transforms you. For so many of us, healing gets tangled up in waiting for our mothers to change. We wait for the apology that never comes, the acknowledgement we always wanted, the embrace that finally says, I see you, I love you, I'm sorry. We imagine that if she finally admitted the pain she caused, or if she suddenly became the mother we longed for, then we would finally feel whole. But here's the hard and liberating truth. Healing doesn't belong to your mother. It belongs to you. You may never get the apology. You may never hear the words you needed. She may never see the weight of what you carried. And if you keep tying your healing to her change, you will stay stuck waiting for something she may never be able to give. Healing begins when you take back ownership. It begins when you say, yes, my mother's choices shaped me, but I choose how the story continues. It's when you stop looking backward for rescue and start looking inward for restoration. That doesn't mean the pain didn't matter. It doesn't mean you don't deserve to be acknowledged. It means you refuse to let your freedom be held hostage by her limitations. It means you give yourself the love, the care, the protection, the validation you always needed. Healing is yours. It happens in the way you speak to yourself now, in the boundaries you set, in the way you raise your own children or choose not to, in the way you break cycles of silence and shame, in the way you decide that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's ability to love you well. And the beauty of claiming your healing is this. Once you understand it belongs to you, you can carry it forward. You can create a new legacy. You can become the safe place you always wished for. You can extend compassion, not as a way to excuse the past, but as proof that you are no longer trapped by it. Because in the end, healing isn't about fixing your mother. It's about freeing yourself. And once you understand that, you stop waiting to be healed and you start becoming whole. When we think about our mothers, it is easy to get lost in extremes, seeing only the love or only the pain, but healing requires something far deeper, the courage to face the whole truth. Your mother was not a symbol of perfection or failure. She was a human being. She carried unspoken stories, wounds you didn't cause, and limitations that shaped the way she loved or failed to love you. She may have loved you deeply and still hurt you. She may have given you what she could and still left you longing for more. The path to healing begins when you stop waiting for her to change and start choosing to change how her story lives inside you. It begins with acknowledging your grief, rewriting your story, and realizing that forgiveness is not about excusing, it's about freeing yourself. Most importantly, healing belongs to you, not to her apologies, not to her recognition, not to her transformation, but to your decision to live differently. You will never heal until you understand this. Your mother's story shaped you, but it does not define you. Her wounds are not your destiny. You are free to love, to grow, to break cycles, and to create a new story rooted in compassion and strength. And that freedom, the freedom to rise above what was given and to create what you deserve, that is the truest inheritance you can claim.